Here's something I find interesting in the news. According to a report from the Jerusalem Post, Hamas held secret talks with European governments. It says the subheading is according to The Guardian, the Islamic group spoke with the UK, Spain, and France despite European Union's official policy of isolating. Now, this is what the article says. Hamas has been in closer contact with European governments despite Brussels' official policy of isolating the Palestinian Islamic organization, according to a report which appeared in the British daily The Guardian on Friday. The newspaper quoted senior Hamas officials as saying that the organization, which today rules the Gaza Strip, has over recent months held back-channel discussions with numerous EU governments, including the United Kingdom. Other countries whose officials have held secret talks with Hamas include Sweden, France, Spain, Italy, the Netherlands, and Denmark, according to The Guardian. Since Hamas's violent takeover of the Gaza Strip in 2007, the EU, which designated the organization as a terrorist movement, has instituted a ban on all contacts. In recent months, however, European officials have met with Hamas's intermediaries in Cairo, Gaza, and other capitals in an apparent effort to gauge the Islamist group's positions on regional issues. We try to keep the contacts low profile because it causes trouble. Ahmed Youssef, a Hamas legislator who also served as a deputy foreign minister, told The Guardian. We prefer not to talk about it, but I can guarantee that most European countries are interested in opening doors to Hamas. Norway and Switzerland, two non-EU states, confirmed to The Guardian that there were indeed low-level contacts with Hamas figures. The Islamist group believes these initial talks are an indication that the Europeans have reached the conclusion that the policy of isolating Hamas is no longer valuable. Some activities are not at official levels, but there are also some at official level, away from the media. We have met some ambassadors and some government officials. Hamas is a fact on the ground, an active part of Palestinian politics, said Naim. This is well known to all players inside and outside Palestine, including those in Europe. Anyone who wants to influence the politics on the ground has to take this into consideration. Well, I believe this is a major step toward toward Hamas becoming a major player in the decisions of where this peace process goes. Of course, we know the United States and the European Union officially consider Hamas to be a terrorist group, but I believe that that's going to change soon. And they will be included as part of the peace process in the coming months or years, maybe sooner. But I have to believe that Israel now is going to have to swallow real hard and accept Hamas as a partner for peace, whether they like it or not. I think Israel's going to be staring into the face of a situation where they're just going to have to say, we don't have to be friends to have peace, or we don't have to like each other. And speaking of the peace process, now a former Shin Bet chief is calling on Mr. Netanyahu to overcome his fears. The fears Mideast conflict is taking a back seat in Israeli public interest. Says, we are approaching a point of no return regarding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. In fact, it may be that we have already crossed it. The issue may not seem as urgent to the Israeli public as the Iranian nuclear program, which has become, with the help of our leaders, a central focus of discussion at the expense of other pressing issues. To my regret, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has yet to reach a prominent place at the top of our list of priorities, nor has it become the second, even the third most important issue. However, the subject has a place in our essence, in our identity, in our souls, in our security, and in our perception of morality as a society or nation that has come to rule another nation. Now, his whole point, I won't go on with the whole article, but his whole point is basically that right now Israel's going through a security lull in which they have relative calm, but he is fearful that this calm is about ready to be broken and the Palestinian conflict is about ready to boil over on Israeli streets. And of course, he's calling upon the Arab Spring as proof that this is about ready to take place. His whole point is that this whole Arab Spring is based upon the frustration of the Arab world, and his fear is that it's about ready to boil over onto Israel. And certainly that is nonsense, but as we've heard, many people will say many different things in order to achieve the accomplishments that they want to accomplish. And this is what he has to say regarding his argument. It says, I will summarize my argument in terms of the future, the identity, the nature, and security of the State of Israel and the Jewish nation. It will be impossible to know when we have passed the point from which we will never be able to return home and retain our identity as a democratic Jewish state. As for the Palestinians, I believe that in the long term they will not lose from the disintegration of the two-state option and the shift to a nearly inevitable outcome of the one remaining reality, a state from the sea to the river. In other words, one state for two nations. When we get there, we will face an immediate existential threat with the erasing of the identity of Israel as a Jewish and democratic state. And in a few years, the reality of the country's demographic will lead to a Palestinian Arab majority and a Jewish minority, with all that entails. Anyone who wants can see the data of the Research and Information Center Division, based on a study done by Professor Arnon Sofer and Professor Sergio Della Pergola, suggesting that at the end of the year 2010, the share of Jews, if you add up the total population between the Mediterranean and the Jordan River, was only 53%. Meanwhile, the quiet on the security front creates the illusion of everything is okay, mistakenly lulling us into believing that there is no reason to worry. But what else do we need to recognize the fact that we are in a state of national emergency in every sense of the term, an emergency whose resolution should have long been at the top of the list of priorities. One only needs to consider that we took place in the largest political parties that supposedly support a two-state solution. When asked to comment on their positions during the election campaign, Likud chairman Benjamin Netanyahu, who for the most part was certain that he was en route to a crushing victory, said nothing of consequence about the subject or other matters. And basically all the other leaders of the campaign also took a closed-mouth position toward saying anything about this state of emergency issue. Well, I think that Mr. Diskin does have a point that needs to be addressed, and I think that it will in time. In fact, I don't have any doubt in my mind that this will someday serve as the reason behind why Israel will sign a peace accord with the Antichrist and split up their land to be divided up to give to the Palestinians. And I believe that Israel will believe that it's a matter of national security, believing that the Palestinians will one day outnumber them, as stated, one nation for two states. Or as they put it, one state for two nations. Of course, the greatest fear is that one day that within the West Bank that the Palestinians will outnumber the Israelis, and that will be the red line that they've gone past, and the world will force them to make a decision whether they are going to incorporate the West Bank Palestinians into their lifestyle, their democratic lifestyle, I should say, allow them voting privileges and other privileges that other Israelis enjoy at this time. And they're afraid that when that day comes that they will be outnumbered and they will be outvoted, and the dream of a Jewish nation will be over with. And that certainly is a legitimate fear, and I believe that it will take precedent in quickly and will play a part in what will happen in the near future. How close, nobody really knows. But the one thing I did want to point out is that the European Union is now beginning to warm up and for it to be made more public that they are accepting Hamas at face value and is willing to negotiate with them behind closed doors. But I have a feeling that will be they will be talking to them out in the open for too long, and the United States will probably follow suit. So slowly but surely we are seeing changes in the Middle East, with most of the Middle East on the cusp of war, from the Syrian front to the Egyptian front. Many are afraid that this could engulf the whole region. Of Lebanon is looking at possibly seeing the war break out onto their streets. Jordan is doing all they can to prevent that from taking place. And Egypt right now, I wouldn't call it a civil war, but certainly there are problems that are coming upon Egypt that they had hoped to avoid. Although I don't see Egypt breaking out into a civil war, I do see continued protests in smaller pockets of Sinai and also in Cairo. And certainly we'll keep an eye on what's going on in these various hot spots and see how that turns out. But I think the main thing that we should be looking at this point in time is where this meeting with Hamas is going to go, and how quickly they are incorporated into the peace process. And if in fact the Israeli leadership does begin to think seriously about giving the Palestinians a state, due to their fear that they could be outnumbered in the very near future. Well, that's all I have for today. I just wanted to open up some things that you may not have heard of. Certainly what's going on in Egypt has kind of taken precedent over a lot of things that we've heard in the news. But this is something that I believe will play a prominent part in the peace that shall come. And if you don't know the Lord as Savior, I would encourage you to make that decision today, because I do believe that we are living in the last days and that the Lord can come back at any time to rapture the church. And I would hate for anyone to have to go through what will follow, and that is the rapture, or the tribulation period. Well, this is Terry Malone with the Calvary Prophecy Report.